Hello, and welcome to the ID Talk podcast. My name's Tony Bazionis, and I'm here, as always, with my good friend and my co-host, Mr. Alex Perala. Alex, hello.
Hello, Tony.
Sorry, that sounded like a question, but it wasn't. It was just a hello. And this is a
Hello?
very hello. Yeah. This is a very special episode because we get to talk to our friend again, Maxine Most, principal at Acuity Market Intelligence, the brains behind the Prism Project, and the driving force, the creator, the brains behind the Deepfake Summit, which is happening March 2nd at the Westin Galleria in Houston, Texas. Max, also
Hey
our friend.
guys,
Welcome. How you
it's
doing?
been way too long.
Yes, it has.
I
It's always
missed
way
you.
too long. Yeah, we missed
Likewise.
you too. And we're happy to get a chance to chat with you because the Deepfake Summit is happening and we're both very excited about it. We unfortunately won't be able to attend, but this has been such a long time
Breaking my
coming,
heart,
and
boys. You're
I
breaking my
know, I
heart.
know. We're literally frozen to the ground here in Canada. But we're slowly thawing. But I mean, let's just get right into it. That the Deepfake Summit, I mean, Alex and I know why this is such a huge topic and why this is such an important thing to talk about, especially now. But um, why the Deepfake Summit? Why is it happening right now?
So what's so interesting is this is an idea that I've had percolating around in my brain for quite some time. Um, got involved with a great group of folks that were interested and joined my advisory board, and I had a website floating out there and have had a lot of interest, and I just haven't had the time, energy, resources to make this thing happen. And we had an opportunity that just got presented to us very late in last year, actually, the end of November, um, through the Secure Technology Alliance that has their annual Identity and Payment Summit happening
Mhm.
in Houston in March. And they said,
Right.
"Hey, we have some extra space. Would you like to do your Deepfake Summit?" And I was like, "Of course I would. Are you kidding me?" So that was the sort of the logistical impetus for this happening in this kind of short time frame. A little bit insane to take this on at the end of November. I was like, "Oh, it's 3 months." I'm like, "Yeah, but you got Christmas in there. You got
Yeah.
years." So that's sort of the logistic of why this is happening now, and the reason why the Deepfake Summit has again been rocking around my brain for a while is because the threat of deepfakes, which 2 or 3 years ago was a lot of conversation,
Hmm.
is
Mhm.
now a full-scale fraud disaster.
Yeah.
And I was doing a webinar earlier today, and somebody was saying, "Yeah, but this deep fake stuff, I mean, when is someone gonna be able to sit and like in front of a camera and talk and have a
Yeah.
deep fake layered on top of them and really be able to convince people?" I'm like, now,
Yeah.
right? And people think about deep fakes and connect it to, a lot of image-based, threats and um what's the word I'm looking for? People doing terrible things to other people online, whether it's, porn
Yeah.
or, political or,
Mhm.
whatever. Right? People think about it like, oh, it's this online thing, and people use this technology to kind of, either scam people or, hurt people or, diminish their reputation. But the reality is this is going on a day-to-day basis for credit card fraud, for mortgage fraud, for people getting jobs. There's a whole industry of people that are operating in other countries, fake people applying to multiple jobs,
Yeah.
um, and they're getting hired.
Mhm.
People, it is a real foundational threat, and it is not
Mhm.
just a technology issue. It is not just a kind of global, a commercial ecosystem issue, and not just a, government relations benefits issue. It is literally a threat to national security and civil society.
Yeah, here, here. I'll just say
So,
that as the writer at ID Tech who's on the AI beat, I've got a weekly AI focused newsletter.
Mhm.
I have consistently found that the average person is just like at least several months behind where the actual state of the art is in their understanding of it. And like I warned my parents about like, don't trust a phone call you get from me that you're not expecting. I gave them that warning like almost a year ago. And so yeah, I'm totally with you. Like it's people need to wake up to this.
And so the idea behind the summit is really to create a um, brain trust in a room. In this case,
Mhm.
we're doing it for an afternoon of people that are looking at this problem from a lot of different perspectives, from technology, from policy, from risk and fraud and compliance and privacy, and talk about some of the key issues and then collectively strategize and collaborate about what we need to do to really solve these problems. Because people think about it as a technology problem, and it is a technology problem, but it's way more than that. And so I'm a big believer that if you get enough smart people in a room and you have open conversations,
Mhm.
that you can actually do problem solving. And the summit is limited to 100 people, because I think if you get more than that, it's too complicated. Um, yes, I'm going to do an introductory keynote and talk about this concept of resilient trust, which is something we developed in our flagship PRISM report, our 2025 flagship PRISM report. And the idea behind resilient trust is that when you're looking at things like deepfakes and synthetic identity and agentic AI, which is like driving this incredibly rapidly accelerating fraud landscape, you also have to be looking at privacy compliance and how we create solutions that are actually going to protect people, not um, expand the surveillance state. And so we created this resilient trust framework, and the idea is to bring those two things together. So you bring together the deepfake, synthetic identity, agentic AI, detection, protection, um, mitigation on
Mhm.
one hand, with building trusted privacy enhancing technology on the other. And rather than looking at those as two things that stand in opposition to each other, you look at them as two sides of the same solution. And so that's sort of the framework, the undercurrent, if you will, for this event. It's called Resilient Trust in the Era of AI Driven Fraud. And so then we're going to talk through sort of what is the state of play right now in terms of what's actually happening out there in financial services, in payments, in government, in commerce with these attacks and these threats. And then we're going to discuss so that's kind of be the opening discussion, and then we're going to have a panel on countermeasures, and what's happening with that from a technology standpoint, and not just deep fake detection, which is what we think of, but how that plays in a layered environment with other type of risk signals and how you work those together. And then we're going to have a really cool panel called It's the Ecosystem Stupid, which is near and dear to my heart because the Prism Project is all about how you create an ecosystem to solve the digital identity problem. And then we're gonna talk about agentic AI. And then we're gonna like end up the day with sort of future forward, which is like where do we go from here? And it's
Mhm.
designed so that there's no PowerPoint slides. Um, there's no leave questions to the end. There's none of that. Let's politely sit through like a 30-minute panel where we sequentially ask one person after another question. It's designed to be very interactive. The people that are sitting in the room could be panelists because
Yeah.
of the level of expertise we're bringing. And so the idea is to create something that's really dynamic and interactive and thought-provoking and collaborative. Um, as opposed to, going to these large events where we're getting a lot of vendor pitches and a lot of,
Mhm.
just the same content over and over and over again. I've really worked to curate this evolution of a conversation over an afternoon.
It's really cool, excuse me, to hear you say that because over the course of, and like we all often say this on this show, but over the course of the last couple of years, we've had so many conversations about AI and the threat and the growing threat and the changing threat and how quickly it's evolving. And just looking at your speakers list, many of those conversations have been with people who will be speaking at the summit. And it's just really exciting to think of all of them, yourself at the top of that list. in a room together having
Feel
this
free to call
discussion.
those names out, Tony.
Yeah, I mean, I'm looking right now. I see Kimberly Sutherland, who we've spoken to. I see Ajay Amlani. I see Blair Cohen. I see, of course, our friend Francis Zelazny. I see yourself. I see a lot of people who are people that we'd love to speak to, and people that we just read about and write about all the time in the industry. Amit Sharma and Connor White, who are dealing with this, and these conversations are
These are thought
very,
leaders. We're bringing together people that like this is what they live
yeah,
and breathe on a daily basis. And again, you have those one-on-one conversations. The idea is let's create a a um, a really collaborative, connected environment. In fact, we're even
yeah,
like organizing the chairs in semicircles,
Mm.
right?
yeah,
So that, and I just my advice to the event person we're working at the hotel is we need to make it close enough so people feel connected, but not so close that they're uncomfortable, right? So
right,
we're trying to, even with just the way the room is set up, everything we're doing is really about creating that kind of collaborative, connected space that allows people to share their expertise in a really open and thoughtful way. We're doing Chatham House rules, so nothing will be attributed to anybody. And it really is to try to cultivate like a meaningful conversation to help move the industry forward.
So what can you elaborate a little bit on that, like in terms of what are you hoping will come out of this in terms of maybe like more specific outcomes? Like, are these people gonna come out of it and be like, this totally changed how I think about deepfakes and we need to approach it this way? Or is it like partnerships, or what are you kind of hoping and expecting to happen?
Kind of all of the above. My expectation is that every like my expectation and my vision and my goal and my desire for this event is that people walk out having interacted with at least three or four other people that maybe they didn't know, or maybe they hadn't talked to before, with a new perspective, with some new ideas about what we need to do to solve this problem. And most importantly for me, I think, is that people understand that this is a all hands on deck endeavor. That there is
Mhm.
no individual, organization, policymaker, vendor, regulatory body, compliance or risk person that is going to solve this problem on their own, whether they're within an organization that needs to bring in these vendor solutions, or whether they're vendors that are trying to bring these critical solutions into large scale enterprises. Is that this is not something that you do alone. There's one of the gentlemen who's speaking is an expert in business process management and GRC. And it's like the vendors need to understand that if you're going to go operate within a large scale financial institution or an energy company, for example, you can't just throw your technology in there and they just can't ingest it, right? You have to operate within um, strongly regulated environments that are siloed. And so just kind of getting your tech into one place and one point in one company, right, does not necessarily mean you have a path within that company to spread your technology out. And so one of the things that I'm
right.
hoping we can start to think about is what does it look like? What does the path look like to kind of ingest this technology into a large enterprise,
Mhm.
right? What is that? How do we map that out? How can vendors actually leverage an understanding of something like that to begin to be more effective in selling into these large organizations? And after having several conversations recently, both with vendors and end users, I'm beginning to believe that a lot of the sales conversations that are going on, that the people that are being sold to inside these organizations don't actually understand enough about the technology to make sense of what the vendors are telling them. And that goes back to the whole Prism project, right? Which is
Mhm.
market education at scale. I mean, we have these reports. We put out a report last year on deepfakes and synthetic identity. We put out a report on privacy and compliance. We brought those together through Resilient Trust in the flagship. And the idea is that anybody, a reasonably intelligent human being, can pick those reports up and they get the definitions and they get the
Mhm.
connections and they get the explanations of what this tech is and how it works. And so I believe we need to do a lot of work to seed the ground so that we're creating opportunities for these large organizations to understand how important this technology is to them, and that we're creating and facilitating um, opportunities for the vendors to actually then go in and provide this technology and these solutions that are critical.
Yeah, I there's a funny echo of that in what I was talking about earlier with the kind of general misunderstanding of AI capabilities with Microsoft has all these enterprise contracts, and so they rolled out their Copilot product pretty easily. And the thing is, Copilot kind of sucks compared to like most other LLMs, like at least the frontier LLMs. But thousands, tens of thousands, hundreds of thousands of people are experiencing AI this way through Copilot at work, and they're like, "Oh, it's not that good. Like, I don't need to worry
Right.
about this," and they just don't know.
Well, I talked to a gentleman, one of our speakers was really interesting. I'd never met him, and he reached out to me to be involved in the summit. I hope I pronounce his name correctly. His name is Rihan Kauser, and he does sort of AI audits. And he says he's going into companies, and there's like 400 AI programs being used that they don't even know about because some engineer, downloaded some $20 product to do
Yeah.
some work. And so that's the other side of this, which is these companies are bringing in all this technology and they don't even know what they have and they don't know how it's interacting with each other. And, let alone, any kind of, authorization or verification process, and so you've got these AI agents running around inside these enterprises and being authorized to do things, and they're not even operating within any kind of an identity and access management system, let alone one that can actually link those agents back to a human being.
Mhm.
Right.
So I just think there's going to be a ton of really cool conversations, right? There's just if there's even our speakers. It's like they're just coming at this. Everyone is coming at these problems from different perspectives, and to me, that's what creates some juice in these events. And I'm also being really careful about, one of my pet peeves in being a panelist and engaging in these conferences is they do so much prep that you get the juicy conversation the first time you're meeting on Zoom, and
Mhm.
then you get to the event and you kind of have lost some of that. So,
Right.
part of this is because we're on such an insanely short timeline. That's not happening until next week, which is 2 weeks before the conference. But I'm working with our moderators to make sure that they don't, I want people to meet, but I don't want them to start having the conversation because I want
Yeah.
that freshness to happen
Yeah.
live in that dynamic environment. So there's a lot of things, whether it's how the seats are set up, who's on the panels, how we're prepping, the forum and the invitation to have people during a panel stand up or raise their hand if they want to engage. I'm just trying to change that whole um, experience for people and make
Mhm.
it something that's truly different and valuable.
Mhm.
Yeah.
Well,
That's
on that note, we're recording this on kind of a short timeline. So maybe before we wrap up, you can just remind everyone like where is it happening? When is it happening? How can they learn more? Like what's your final message to people watching and listening?
So we are live at the lovely Westin Galleria in Houston, Texas on March 2nd. It's an afternoon event. Um, Join us at noon for lunch. We're going to dive in at 1. We'll finish up about 5:45, and then that's going to be followed by the opening reception, which is our closing reception for the Identity and Payments Summit that the Secure Technology Alliance is throwing on. So there's going to be a whole lot of people coming in to that conversation. You can find out more at thedeepfakesummit.com. Registration information, the agenda, speakers, all of that good stuff. And it would be great to have lots more people in the room with different perspectives. And we are limiting the summit to 100 people, so there aren't unlimited tickets. So if you are interested, I would recommend you hop on to the website and register as soon as you can.
awesome.
All right,
Thanks.
well, I
And we will
second
put all
that.
that. We'll put all that in the description of the episode, the links and everything for people to conveniently be able to click on them.
Yeah, I think as we've established here, it's a pretty important topic. It's only going to get more important as the year goes on. So this is a great way to start the year and get people talking and thinking about it. So we're looking forward to
Agreed.
seeing what comes out of this, Max.
Yeah, we're
Yep.
going to publish a report. So we are doing Chatham House rules, so nothing will be attributed, but we will have a report that comes out to share, what we experienced and what we found and what insights were gained from bringing this brain trust together.
All right, awesome.
Excellent.
Well, break a leg.
Thanks, Max.
Thank you.